Fatima, come and help your junior sister here. Leave that phone, it won't put food on our table.
Mom, stop stressing. A beautiful girl like me can't be bending down to cook. That's why I will marry a rich man that will take good care of me.
Fatima, you must learn to cook.
Fatima, leave that phone. We need to sell this finish.
Mom, this is why I said I will only marry a rich billionaire, so I won't be suffering like this.
Fatima once believed her beauty would save her from suffering. She mocked hard work, laughed at poverty, and chased the soft life she saw online. But the day she returned to her village, broken, sick, and hiding her face in shame, even the people who once envied her could not recognize her anymore. What really happened to the most beautiful girl in the village? And how did the younger sister she once looked down on become the woman everyone respected? This is the painful story of Fatima, a girl who chased fake luxury until it almost destroyed her life. Fatima was the kind of girl that made people stop and stare. When she walked down the dusty road of her village, heads turned, children pointed, and old women whispered her name like a prayer. She had the face of someone born for something great, bright eyes, smooth skin, and a smile that could light up the darkest room. But underneath all that beauty was a heart that had never learned the meaning of hard work. Fatima believed that God gave her a beautiful face so she would never have to suffer. And that belief was the beginning of everything that nearly destroyed her. Every morning, while the whole village was already awake and moving, Fatima was still wrapped in her blanket, pressing her phone with lazy fingers. She would scroll through pictures for hours, beautiful girls in the city wearing expensive clothes, sitting inside luxury cars, eating in fine restaurants, and laughing like life had no pain. Fatima would stare at those pictures with hungry eyes, and something hot would burn inside her chest. She wanted that life. She deserved that life. She was too beautiful for this dusty village, too pretty for early mornings and tired hands and market stalls. Her mother, a quiet and gentle woman named Mama Rose, woke up before the sun every single day. She would tie her wrapper tight around her waist, carry her provisions basket on her head, and walk to the roadside market to sell small things, seasoning cubes, soap, groundnuts, and sachet water, just to feed her children. Mama Rose had rough hands and tired feet, but she never complained. She just worked and prayed and hoped. And every morning before she left, she would knock softly on Fatima's door and whisper, "My daughter, come and help me today." But Fatima always groaned, pulled the blanket over her head, and pretended not to hear. "Mama, I am not a market woman," Fatima snapped one afternoon when her mother asked her again. "Look at my face. Look at my hands. I was not born to sit in the sun and sell groundnuts like a commoner." Mama Rose looked at her daughter for a long quiet moment. Then she looked down at her own rough hands, the hands that had carried and fed this same girl since birth, and she said nothing. She just picked up her basket and walked back to the market with a heavy heart. Standing by the door and watching her mother walk away, Fatima felt no shame. She simply turned back to her phone and continued scrolling. Before we begin this emotional story, please take 1 second to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, because the stories we share here are not just entertaining, they teach real-life lessons that many people are afraid to talk about. While Fatima slept and scrolled, her younger sister Sophia was already turning into someone remarkable. Sophia was not as physically striking as Fatima, she was simpler in appearance, but she carried herself with a quiet dignity that people respected without fully understanding why. She woke up before 5 every morning, swept the compound, fetched water, helped Mama Rose pack her goods, and still found time to study before school. People in the village often said, "That Sophia, she is something else," and they meant it as the highest praise. Sophia never complained about waking up early or carrying heavy loads or sitting in the hot sun beside her mother. When she was tired, she rested. When she was sad, she prayed. When her mates were laughing and playing on the weekends, she was learning how to count money properly, learning how to talk to customers, learning the name of every supplier in the market. She had a plan. It was not a loud or dramatic plan. It was quiet and patient, like a seed buried in the ground that no one could see yet, but that was already growing roots. "Sophia, don't you get tired?" one of her friends asked her one afternoon, fanning herself under a tree. "Your sister is at home sleeping and posting pictures while you are here helping your mother under this sun. Is it fair?" Sophia smiled and continued arranging the goods on the table. "My sister has her own way," she said carefully. "But I have mine. And my way will take me where I want to go." Her friend laughed as though she had said something funny, but Sophia did not laugh back. She simply continued working, and the quiet fire in her eyes said everything she did not put into words. But Sophia was not made of stone. There were nights when she cried into her pillow, exhausted and overwhelmed. She would lie in the darkness and think about the things she was missing, the fun, the rest, the carefree laughter that other young girls had. She thought about Fatima, who contributed nothing but complained about everything. She thought about how unfair it all felt. But every morning, she washed her face, tied her wrapper, and went back outside. Because Sophia had something Fatima did not, she understood that the season of planting never looks beautiful. Only the harvest does. Everything changed the day Fatima rediscovered Almighty Bella. They had grown up in the same village years ago, just two ordinary girls chasing each other through the same narrow paths, sharing the same dusty childhood. But Bella had moved to the city 2 years earlier, and now, on social media, she looked like a completely different human being. She wore designer clothes. She traveled. She sat in hotels that Fatima had only ever seen in music videos. She surrounded herself with rich men in expensive suits who bought her things and took her places. Fatima became obsessed. She would spend hours going through Bella's page, every picture, every video, every comment. She would zoom into the jewelry, study the hotel rooms, read every compliment in the comment section. People called Bella a queen. People admired her, envied her, worshipped her. And all Fatima could think was, if Bella can have all of this, why can't I? Bella was not smarter than her. Bella was not more beautiful than her. They grew up in the same place, breathed the same air, walked the same paths. If Bella had escaped, then there had to be a way for her too. Meanwhile, honest young men were coming to her parents' house with genuine intentions. Men with nothing but hope and hard work and a deep desire to build something real with a good woman. One of them, a quiet and respectful young man named Daniel, came 3 times. He was not rich, but he was kind, responsible, and had a small business he was growing with his own hands. He sat with her father with total respect and said, "Sir, I cannot promise her the world right now. But I can promise her my loyalty and everything I have." Fatima listened from behind the door and almost burst out laughing. "A suffering man wants to come and suffer with me," she said to herself and walked away. "Fatima," her father called her one evening. He was a gentleman, but his eyes that night carried something heavy. "I am warning you, my daughter. What people show online is not always what is real. Bella's life, what you are seeing, it may not be what you think." Fatima rolled her eyes and looked at the wall. "Daddy, Bella is living her life and enjoying it. You want me to keep sitting in this village selling groundnuts forever?" Her father went quiet. He rubbed his hands together slowly, the way he always did when words were not enough. "I pray you don't learn this lesson the hard way," he finally said. But by then, Fatima had already stopped listening. When Bella's message came, "Come to the city, babe. I will show you life," Fatima did not think for even a single second. She packed her bag that same night while everyone was asleep. She did not say a proper goodbye. She left a short note on the kitchen table that said she was going to the city to find a better life. Sophia found the note in the morning and read it twice, her heart sinking slowly like a stone dropped into deep water. Mama Rose held the note to her chest and stood by the window for a long time without speaking. The city hit Fatima like a wave. Everything was loud and fast and bright and overwhelming. Bella picked her up in a car that smelled of perfume and leather, and within 1 hour, Fatima had seen more luxury than her entire village life had ever shown her. The apartment Bella lived in had a couch that was softer than any bed Fatima had ever slept on. The bathroom tiles were cleaner than most people's kitchen tables. Bella gave her new clothes, took her to a restaurant where the menu had no prices on it, and showed her a city where money flowed like water. Bella, how? Fatima kept asking, touching everything with wide eyes. How do you afford all this? What kind of job is paying you like this? Bella smiled, but the smile did not reach her eyes. Relax, babe, she said, sipping her drink slowly. Everything has a price. The city is not free. But if you are smart and you know how to move, the money comes. Fatima nodded enthusiastically, not fully understanding but too excited to ask more questions. She was too busy taking pictures of her food and the restaurant interior to post online. She wanted everyone back in the village to see. She wanted them to know she had made it. That first week was like a dream. Bella took her everywhere. Clubs, malls, boat rides, rooftop restaurants, boutique shops. Fatima wore clothes she had only ever seen on screens. Men looked at her with desire and admiration wherever she went. For the first time in her life, she felt powerful. She felt seen. She felt like she had finally stepped into the life she always deserved. She started posting everything online, the clothes, the food, the views, the lifestyle. Comments poured in from back home. Fatima is leaving. Wow, she made it. She read every single comment with a smile spreading across her face, completely blind to the storm that was already building just beneath the surface. It was on a Tuesday night that everything Fatima thought she knew began to crack. She had gone to bed early while Bella dressed up slowly, carefully, like she was preparing for something serious. Fatima thought nothing of it. But around midnight, she heard the front door open and close quietly, and curiosity pulled her out of bed. She looked through the window and saw a black car parked outside. A tall man in a dark suit stepped out, handed Bella an envelope, and Bella disappeared into the car without a word. Fatima did not sleep the rest of that night. When Bella returned early in the morning, tired, quiet, and smelling of someone else's cologne, Fatima sat across from her at the kitchen table and looked at her directly. "Bella," she said. "Tell me the truth." Bella sat down slowly. She stared at the table for a long time. Then, to Fatima's complete surprise, Bella began to speak, not proudly, not defensively, but quietly and carefully, like someone finally releasing a weight they had been carrying alone for too long. "I sleep with rich men for money, Fatima," Bella said flatly. "Politicians. Businessmen. Married men who have everything they want except someone who will not ask them questions." She looked up and her eyes were tired in a way that had nothing to do with the late night. "I want you to know before you see it yourself. This life is not what it looks like online. I have been scared every single day for 2 years. Some girls in this business have disappeared. Some have been hurt in ways they will never talk about. I post the beautiful parts so I don't have to think about the terrible parts." Fatima sat frozen, completely silent. "So why do you keep doing it?" Fatima finally whispered. Bella laughed, but it was the saddest laugh Fatima had ever heard. "Because I don't know how to stop," she said. "And because the money is real even when nothing else is." She reached across the table and held Fatima's hand. "Go home," Bella said, and her voice cracked slightly. "Go back to your village. Help your mother. Find Daniel or someone like him. This life will eat you." Fatima looked at Bella's tired eyes, at the envelope on the counter, at the expensive furniture around them, and she felt two things at exactly the same time: fear and temptation. And the wrong one. If this story is touching your heart already, don't forget to subscribe and like this video. You never know who needs to hear a story like this before making a dangerous decision that could change their life forever. Fatima did not go home. She told herself she would just stay a little longer. She told herself she was different from Bella, she was smarter, she would be more careful, she would take the money and leave before it became a problem. She told herself it would only be once. One night. Just to feel what the real money felt like in her hands. And so, with a prayer she did not fully believe and a heart divided against itself, Fatima made the decision that would cost her everything. The money came fast and it came heavy. Rich men called Bella's phone and Bella passed the number along. They were charming at first, generous, well-dressed, smelling of expensive things. They brought gifts without being asked. Phones, wigs, handbags, gold earrings, shoes that cost more than Mama Rose made in 3 months. Fatima began posting again, always careful never to show the source of the gifts, always crafting a version of her life that looked like ambition and success rather than what it truly was. People back home continued admiring her. Some girls sent her private messages asking how she did it. But every time she got off a phone call with one of those men, something heavy settled in her chest. She would stand in the bathroom and look at herself in the mirror for too long. She would think about her father's slow, sad voice the last time she saw him. She would think about Sophia, probably awake before sunrise, sweeping the compound with quiet dedication. Then she would splash water on her face, walk out of the bathroom, and convince herself it was fine, that she had made her choice and now she had to live with it. The expensive face powder she put on every morning became a mask for more than just her skin. Meanwhile, back in the village, Sophia was quietly becoming someone extraordinary. She had expanded Mama Rose's small provision stall into a proper little shop. She had started buying from wholesalers directly, cutting costs and growing profit slowly. She kept a small notebook where she tracked every naira that came in and went out. People in the market began calling her the smart daughter. Young business owners came to her for advice. She was 20 years old, but she carried herself with the calm and the wisdom of someone who had already been tested by fire and survived it. She had no flashy pictures online, no expensive clothes, no city life. But she had something that could not be faked, she was genuinely becoming something real. The warning signs had been there all along, but Fatima had learned to look away from things that scared her. Some of the men in their circle were not charming anymore, they were controlling. They sent messages at midnight demanding things. They grew angry when their calls were not answered within 2 rings. One girl they knew from their circle simply stopped appearing 1 week, and when Fatima asked Bella where she had gone, Bella changed the subject and walked into the other room. Fatima lay in bed that night listening to every sound in the apartment, and for the first time, she truly understood that she was afraid. Bella herself had started looking different. Thinner. Quieter. The bright, performative energy she used to carry everywhere had dulled like a lamp running out of fuel. She still posted online, beautiful, filtered, carefully chosen pictures, but in the apartment, she barely spoke. Sometimes Fatima would find her sitting alone in the kitchen at strange hours, staring at nothing. "Bella, are you okay?" Fatima asked one night. Bella looked at her and tried to smile. "I'm just tired," she said. But it was not the tired that sleep could fix. It was something deeper. Something that had been building for too long. Then the worst day arrived without any announcement, the way the worst days always do. The wives of 2 powerful politicians had been quietly gathering evidence for months. On a Thursday afternoon, Fatima and Bella were confronted at a popular location they were known to visit. What started as a confrontation became a public nightmare. They were surrounded, screamed at, humiliated, and a phone camera was already rolling before either of them could think to run. Fatima had never felt so completely exposed in her entire life. Every wall she had built, every careful post, every beautiful lie she had constructed online, all of it collapsed in those few terrible minutes. The video spread before the sun went down. By evening, people in the village were already watching and talking. Mama Rose, who had never done anything to anyone, became the center of gossip in the market. People whispered whenever she passed. Children who did not even understand what they were saying repeated the words they heard adults use. Fatima's father locked himself inside his room and did not come out for 2 days. And Sophia, who had been at the shop counting the day's earnings, came home and found her mother crying quietly in the kitchen. Sophia sat beside her mother, wrapped her arms around her, and said nothing. She just held her. Because some pain is too wide for words. After the scandal, the men disappeared like smoke in the wind. No phone calls. No messages. No gifts. The people who had admired Bella's page online started flooding it with insults and mockery. Fake friends who had eaten at their table and worn their clothes sent nasty messages and blocked them afterwards. The apartment began to feel less like a palace and more like a trap. Bills that the men used to pay silently began arriving at the door with nowhere left to hide. Bella got sick. A real, serious, frightening kind of sick that could not be explained away or covered with foundation and a good filter. She was admitted to a hospital, and the room she was given was not the private luxury ward she had once imagined for herself. It was a general ward with peeling paint and plastic chairs. Fatima sat beside her bed and held her hand, and for the first time since coming to the city, she felt the full, crushing weight of everything they had done. There was no music. No beautiful lighting. No comment section to scroll through. Just two young women sitting with the real consequences of choices made in desperation. Fatima herself began to unravel. She could not sleep. She could not eat properly. She cried at odd hours for no clear reason, and then felt ashamed of crying, and then cried about the shame. She had spent so long building a false version of herself online that she had completely forgotten who she actually was beneath it. She had a mother who sold groundnuts in the market because she loved her children. She had a father with gentle hands and quiet wisdom. She had a sister who walked while she slept. She had rejected all of that, mocked it, looked down on it, run away from it, in exchange for a life that had turned out to be nothing but a beautiful, dangerous lie. Back in the village, Sophia's quiet season was turning into a harvest. The small shop had grown steadily. She had hired 2 young women from the community to help her run it. She had built a small savings account. A kind and hard-working young man who respected her deeply had asked for her hand with her father's full blessing, and the celebration in their compound, though simple, was filled with real joy and genuine love. People danced not because they had been paid to, but because something truly good had happened. Sophia had planted in silence for years, and now the fruit had finally come, ripe, beautiful, and completely real. Fatima came back to the village on a Tuesday morning, the same day of the week that the whole nightmare had begun. She had nothing with her but a small bag, a body that felt 10 years older than it was, and a heart so full of regret it hurt to breathe. She had spent her last money on the bus fare home. She had sold the last of the expensive things to cover Bella's hospital bills, because she was the only person left who had not abandoned her. Even doing that one true and selfless thing had felt strange and new, like a muscle she was using for the first time. She stood at the gate of her family compound and looked at everything she had once been so desperate to escape. The same dusty ground. The same simple walls. The same small windows. But now it looked completely different to her tired eyes. It looked like safety. It looked like something real in a world that had shown her how quickly fake things could vanish. She pushed the gate open slowly, and it creaked the same familiar creak it had always made. And then Mama Rose appeared in the doorway, wiping her hands on her wrapper, and she froze when she saw her daughter. For a moment, neither of them moved. Fatima opened her mouth, but no words came out, only a broken sound, the kind that comes from somewhere too deep for language. And Mama Rose, who had every reason to turn away, walked straight across the compound and wrapped her arms around her daughter without saying a single word. She just held her. She held her the way she had held her as a child, the way a mother holds a child she was afraid she had lost. Fatima cried in a way she had never cried before, not a pretty, self-pitying kind of crying she had done in the city, but the kind that comes from the very bottom of a person. A real cry. A cleansing cry. It was Sophia who found them there when she returned from the shop that evening, her mother and her sister sitting together on the step, quiet and still, like two people who had both survived something enormous. Sophia did not make a speech. She did not say "I told you so," though she had every right to. She simply sat down on the other side of her sister, took her hand in the dark, and held it. 3 women. One small compound. No luxury, no designer clothes, no cameras. Just truth, quiet, steady, and unshakable. And sitting there between the mother who never stopped loving her and the sister who never stopped walking, Fatima finally understood the lesson that no social media post had ever been able to teach her. The soft life had given her everything that looked like joy and felt like poison. But this plain, humble, honest place she had once been so ashamed of, this was the only thing that had ever been truly, completely, and permanently real. If Fatima's story taught you anything today, let it be this: never judge honest beginnings, and never believe everything you see online. Subscribe to the channel for more emotional and life-changing stories like this, and share this video with someone who needs this message.